Horror has been booming in recent years, and 2023 has so far delivered some truly excellent titles. There's still plenty more to come from the horror genre across the rest of the year, of course, but the following 10 movies have marked this out as a cracking year already for this murky corner of cinema. With that in mind, I'm Andrew from What Culture Horror, and here are the 10 most terrifying horror movies released in 2023 so far. Number 10, The Boogeyman. Based on Stephen King's short story of the same name, The Boogeyman tells the tale of a family grieving the loss of their matriarch. As the father and the two daughters struggle to move on, a deranged man enters their life and brings a twisted supernatural entity with him. This movie may well tell a relatively standard story, however, the amount of dread and atmosphere makes The Boogeyman stand tall about other such tales of this terrifying figure of folklore. There's tension, good pacing, a great creature design, and some stellar acting on display here. The Boogeyman also comes jam-packed with freaky jump scares that leave you dreading every dark corner of your screen. Delightfully devilish stuff indeed. Number 9, Cobweb. Seeing someone's everyday life invaded by dangerous forces can be deeply unsettling, and Cobweb delivers on that kind of fear masterfully. This film tells the story of a young boy living with emotionally neglectful parents. After time, he begins to hear a mysterious tapping from inside the house's walls, which his parents tell him is only his imagination. But the boy soon discovers the source of these noises as a voice begins talking to him. Cobweb relishes its gothic atmosphere, and is a nightmare that slowly picks up steam as the narrative plays out. This build-up of horror leaves you terrified as you get the sense that things will not end well for this unlucky kid. Cobweb also keeps its villains somewhat ambiguous, and while that may irk some, it does play into the anxiety of the situation as you truly feel kept in the dark. Number 8, Sick. This 2023 slasher manages to stand out thanks to its relevant concept. Sick follows two friends who isolate together in a secluded lake house due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, while they think they're away from civilization, it soon becomes clear they're not alone, and their guest isn't there to make friends. The film explores the dread of the pandemic through the depiction of isolation and the paranoia of the virus itself. Without delving into spoilers, the virus feeds into the danger of the pandemic and the anger felt by the public. Sick is also an incredibly effective slasher movie, with great pacing, plenty of violence, and it combines timely satire with a terrifying murder spree, which is exactly what it needed to do to work. Number 7, Abruptial. One thing about Abruptial that makes even the simplest scene a complete nightmare for most people is the whole thing is brought to life with puppets. Yes, horrible life-sized puppets. Abruptial follows the misadventures of a middle-aged man named Les. His already lackluster life is thrown into disarray after he discovers a bomb implanted in his neck and is forced to perform awful crimes to keep himself alive. Think a little bit like the Suicide Squad. Along the way, Les encounters others who face the same fate. Even non-horror puppet movies like Strings, The Dark Crystal, and The Muppets at times are enough to fill some people with dread. So don't expect an easy ride when watching this deliberately uncanny film. The life-sized puppets are monstrously well built as they can emit surprisingly convincing expressions, yet still feel unalive simultaneously. While this visual style shocks, the story itself shows what humanity can do when pushed into a corner. Plus, just because it's not live action doesn't mean the multiple instances of horrendous violence are really painful to watch. Number 6, Infinity Pool. Lingering dread, unsettling moments, ruthless characters, this movie has them all. Brandon Cronenberg wowed the horror scene with Possessor in 2020, and Infinity Pool keeps that momentum rolling for Cronenberg Jr. The film follows a man who vacations with his wife in the fictional country of La Tolga. However, he becomes involved in an accident that lands him on the bad side of the country's government. This leads him then into the palms of a surreal and perverse group of tourists who exploit the nation's bizarre scientific breakthroughs and capital punishment customs. Infinity Pool is definitely slow-paced, but this gives way to some truly deplorable sequences. Part of this comes from the terrifying sci-fi concepts, but there's also the horror of seeing the rich live out their hedonistic desires with no empathy. Like Boris Johnson. Number 5, Huesera the Bone Woman. Which Sarah the Bone Woman is a Spanish language film that follows Valeria, who is wary about becoming a first-time mother, and any small joy fades as she is cursed by a sinister entity. Reportedly, some cinema audience members struggled to breathe due to being so frightened by this picture. The Bone Woman fills its runtime with disturbing imagery focusing on cracking bones, the physical toil of carrying a child, and the pain of the birthing process. On a wider sense, it addresses the powerful fear that pregnancy and motherhood give to some, and the end result is an absolutely terrifying movie. Number 4. In My Mother's Skin. In My Mother's Skin is highly effective as it hits you with the 1-2 combination of horrendous war crimes and freaky monsters. Set in the Philippines during World War II, the film focuses on a wealthy family terrorized by a collection of Japanese soldiers. This desperate situation becomes worse after the daughter seeks the aid of a fairy, not knowing the fairy's true intentions are to devour the family's flesh. You may want to avoid In My Mother's Skin if you're the squeamish type. It's not for the faint-hearted and is a genuine gorefest with some unbelievably disgusting imagery. The movie also takes its time to meticulously set up shots before launching into its scares, and this makes for an utterly gripping terror ride. Number 3. Evil Dead Rise. Thankfully, this 2023 re-exploration of the Evil Dead franchise brought plenty of passion, blood, and most importantly, terror to the table. It's fantastic, it's brilliant, I cannot recommend it enough. Go and watch it if you've not seen it already. If you have seen it already, go and watch it again. It's just great. Now, Evil Dead Rise, it walks away from the traditional cabin in the woods approach and instead shows a deadite invasion on an inner city apartment complex. The film then follows Ellie, a mother possessed by an evil spirit, as she begins an onslaught on her own family. Evil Dead Rises pulls no punches, delving deep into the depravity of the Deadites. It's packed from wall to wall with some of the most visceral violence of the year, featuring kids eating glass, cheese graters tearing up legs, and a whole lot of other gnarly stuff. While the gore is frightening, the film also boasts a haunting performance from Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie. She just manages to play this character with such fearsome malice and an uncanny creepiness that makes every second she's on screen a total nightmare. This is genuinely magnificent, sinister stuff. Please go and watch it again. Number 2. Skinnamarink. Skinnamarink is as far from a traditional horror movie as you're going to get, but that is the strength of this, should we say, experimental film. The tale follows the events after 2 children awake during the night to find that their home is changed. Their father's missing and the windows and the doors have vanished, leaving these kiddos stranded inside their house. Part of what makes Skinnamarink truly terrifying is how well it captures the feeling of childhood terror. When you're a youngin', you can barely make sense of the world, so the nighttime can be a truly nightmarish place. And this picture encapsulates that anxiety and confusion as you feel as helpless and vulnerable as the kids that you're watching. While most horrors attempt to keep you engaged throughout with consistent action and energy, this film does the opposite. Admittedly, it can be a real slog to get through at times thanks to extensive periods of inactivity, but this works into the scares as the slow intro makes the eventual delve into horror all the more genuinely unsettling. Number 1. Talk to Me. A24 does it again. Yes, Talk to Me is the latest horror hit from the beloved indie studio. The film follows a group of teenagers who tempt fate by conjuring spirits through the embalmed hand of a medium. Of course, that's going to go well, isn't it? Yes, we've not seen this before. Oh, those teenagers soon become addicted to pulling this trick, leading to supernatural entities invading their lives and causing chaos. Talk to Me is an incredibly effective supernatural horror that manages to hit most of the subgenre's tropes while still feeling fresh and unique. The spirits seen in the film are haunting, and the movie nicely spaces out the big scares enough to keep you on edge, but packed enough tension to stop you from getting too comfortable. A particular highlight has to be the frequent possession scenes, which feature incredible acting, stellar editing, and terrifying, yes, really terrifying sound effects. They are clearly Talk to Me's biggest selling point, and it's not hard to see why. So that's our 10 most terrifying horror movies released in 2023 so far. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, turn those notification bells on, and come and give us a follow on X at What Culture Horror. While you're there, you can find myself at Cultured Left Peg, but most importantly, be sure to have the best possible day. I'm Andrew Pollard from What Culture Horror, and I'll catch you down the road.